Hello, and welcome to Digifabricators, the show where we learn how makers and artists use their computer driven tools for fun, art, and profit. I'm your
Yes.
host, Jeff Stein, aka A Weird Guy, and with me is my talented but humble co host, Al Schultz of New York Woodworks. How's it going, Al?
It's going great, Jeff. How are you this evening?
Oh, having a great day. Everything's going well. The weather's nice. We've got a
Beautiful.
fantastic guest.
Yeah, we do.
We
Thank you.
should get at it, right?
Yeah, let's get going. Who is it?
All right. Well, let me
Me?
throw in the official disclaimer first here.
All right, I'll keep my
And
mouth shut.
that's all right. It's not like anybody didn't know anyway. They read the title on the freaking track. So, even though we pretend to be experts on the internet, I would like to point out that neither of us have any actual training and are just guys winging it in our shops and learning as we go.
That
All
is true.
advice provided is based on our personal experience and possibly inaccurate assumptions and is worth exactly what you pay for it. If listening to this show causes you to take out a loan to buy new and expensive digital tools, you may tell your spouse that it was our fault, but do so at your own risk.
True.
So, tonight, our guest needs no introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. This guy has so many skills and accomplishments, I could spend the next 90 minutes just listing them. He was
Thank
sketching creative project ideas on the walls of his mother's womb. He mastered the bandsaw before beginning kindergarten, and he started his YouTube channel before the internet. I might have the timeline off a little bit, but that's what the AI told me. He's been popular on
The,
YouTube,
the
on
AI is right.
podcasts, and on several television shows, but he's still one of us and one of the nicest, most generous people you'll ever meet.
Oh, thank you so
Welcome, Jimmy
much.
Diresta.
Thank you, Jeff. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you,
making me
sir.
blush. Thank
I
you.
try
Thank you.
to
Did
have
the
fun
AI
with the
did the
intros.
AI really say that, or you made that up?
No,
Oh,
no,
good. Say the
no, I'm
AI.
just a smart ass.
Yeah. No. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah,
Al, I see from time to time when I host a barbecue or two. Al comes across the river, comes and says
yeah,
hello. He's only about 30 miles away.
that's right. And I never pass up a barbecue.
Yep.
Well,
And
I'd
and Jeff,
stop
we
in
never
if I
met in
wasn't
person.
19 hours away.
We never met in person, but I think you came to my attention a few years ago when you were doing like the four-sided CNC stuff and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
really getting nuts with that and just making me realize how shitty I am at the CNC. So thank you.
Well, I aim for inspiring, but I
I,
mean,
I literally color inside the lines. That's as good as I get on the CNC. When
Mhm.
people are always like, I'm like, 3D, forget it. 3D tool, forget it. 3D tool path. Just go to somebody else for that.
well,
But
it does add a whole nother dimension to the project.
no. It's inspiring. Every year I say to myself, this is the year I'm going to use, especially with Nick Birchall. Like every time I see
Oh,
one of his things, I'm like, I take a piece of wood, I hit myself in the forehead with it first, and then I say, today's the day, or this year's the year. Oh my God, insane. This
yeah,
year's the year I'm going to learn how to use my rotary, my fourth axis. And
yeah.
I fumble my way through a project, break a couple of bits, and I go, maybe next year. I'll just wait till next year.
Is your
So.
fourth axis as long as your machine or across the end?
It's across the end. It's
So
5 foot.
4 feet
Yeah,
or 5
it's
foot.
on.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my machine is a 5 by 8, which is an odd size.
Yeah.
When I made my handshake agreement with ShopBot Tools in 2017, it's been that long. I said, give me a machine, and in exchange, you'll just get a lot of exposure, and I get a cool machine. And they gave me the Alpha 5 by 10, but when they showed up to put it together, I saw them fumbling, making some phone calls, and he's like, we sent the 5 by 8. Is that okay? Or should we just halt this whole process and get? I was like, I don't care. This is
Yeah.
plenty big enough for me. So
I
that's why
wish.
my machine is like a weird size.
Yeah. I almost, and I wish I had. It was only like another grand, but I wish I had spec'd mine in 5 by 8 because 5 by 5 baltic
Boards.
birch,
Yeah,
is
that's
pretty
why I said,
common.
when we had a little negotiation about it, and I was like, well, I'm like, you know what? I do use 5 by 5 birch. I know who the hell
Yeah,
could pick up a 5 by 10 sheet of birch at our age.
yeah,
It's going to be
yeah.
impossible. So I said 5x5 is hard enough
Yeah.
to pick up because it's just barely our wingspan. It's
Yeah.
such a pain in the ass to move them. But
Yeah.
if it was twice the size, it would be impossible to move. So I was like 5x5 is good enough.
Yeah.
So occasionally, the kid nobody knows Ryan. Only a couple of friends that know me up close know Ryan. He's
Yep.
been living in my house for about 6 years. Ryan just rents one of my rooms, and he also uses my shop quite a bit. He's a very talented artist, designer, but has like no interest in ever being on the internet or being out in front. Nice guy. He's helping me design a lot of the interior parts of the graveyard house. He's actually a trained architect. And Ryan is doing a big project with 5x5. So this morning I moved a pallet of 5x5s one at a time.
Oh
So
my gosh.
my shoulders still hurt from picking up the 5x5
Ouch.
sheets.
Do you
I
have,
just got them on the ground and dragged them across the shop. I had to like stand them up one at a time.
do you have a grabo? You got to get a
Uh,
grabo.
I do, but it's never. I can
Never
never
charged.
grabo it. It's never where I need to grabo it.
Yeah.
Because
But
I
yeah,
went
they're
in the shop
amazing.
and I was like, you know what? I don't know if you saw my Instagram stories today where I played with the bandsaw from Harvey Tools. I have a little agreement with them. I'm going to show it. I'm going to do a couple of videos on that new bandsaw. And I was like, you know what? I have about a window of about 2 hours before my next thing because I had to meet somebody. I was like, let me make some room, drag the bandsaw into the middle of the room so it has some space around. That's why I had to move all those plywoods. It wasn't a plan. It was just an impulse.
Yeah. The car's coming along beautiful too.
Thank you. The car is a real fun project.
Yeah.
I knew there were some hurdles that I personally,
Yeah.
I say it all the time on my podcast. When you come to a dead end on any project you do, or it lingers unfinished, or it lingers like, I really want to do it, but I don't want to do it. There's always one thing or two things that are fucking you up or holding you up. There's two things. I'm allowed to curse, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. So this, because I'll casually curse if we have just a conversation. It's always something. And for me, when it comes to cars, it's electrical.
Uh-huh.
And when I see an old car, I just see an electrical nightmare. Like I'm never going to be able to figure out
Cloth wiring.
what doesn't work.
Yep.
Yeah, cloth wiring. And so this time, when I grabbed this car and I took it in, I just said I'll find somebody. And Keith Drennan's going to help me do the wiring. We discussed it. Now Keith's going to be near me. He's going to live near me, so that's going to be great. He's going to really help with the project. And we got till August. August at the Blackthorn is going to be the Rat Rod event.
Nice.
So I'm giving myself that timeline. But the other day we got the car running. It's on my Instagram story.
Yep.
And we burnt out the coil, which is why we were having a hard time starting it again. We had some wires crossed, whatever.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
That's always, for me, it's always kind of a kick in the gut when it comes to electrical.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got people smarter than me to figure that out.
I quietly I don't like bothering people that I know are busy, so I'm like not knocking it. I would sit outside your shop all day if you know. So I quietly stalk you through Rob.
Oh, right on. Yeah, you can come over and hang out.
Yeah.
You know what
I mean. I send him forklift pictures every once in a while to keep him enticed.
Yeah.
But
and Rob now lives in my neighborhood across the street.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so happy. He's such a good guy. I remember when he first started hanging out, and I was like, this guy's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He told me a funny story the other day, but I'll get to that in a minute. But you tell me, keep talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was just gonna say, like you put out these little gems, like on your podcast and on your stories and stuff like that. And one of the things that you've said to Bob a lot, I've adopted in my life, and that is like you have to have an idea, like you're building a Cadillac. You know what the final picture in your mind is, but you don't have any idea how you're going to get there.
Right.
So just take a bite. Just do. I can do this. I can do that. I've got a project. I would like to. I don't think it's going to happen for Rat's Nest this year, but I've got 2 Volkswagens. I've got a dune buggy project and a Beetle project. And I've been stalking Bob also, but my dune buggy is in complete disarray, but the motor is completely rebuilt, sitting on the floor right under that towel.
Okay.
So it's ready to go. And so that, like, rather than I don't know where to start, I said I'm going to rebuild the motor. So now the motor's ready. You know,
right?
And the pan is being shortened right now. So the next step is to get the body work over here so I can start doing fiberglass. It's a 68 or it's a 70 Bruce Myers Manx.
Oh wow.
Dune buggy, yeah, Series 1.
So, oh wow. See, I don't know much about him, but do you guys you guys both know Dave Gagne, who passed away this summer in a motorcycle wreck?
Yes.
Dave's wife has his stuff, and I know she's trying to raise some money, so she has a couple of dune buggies and stuff. If you're interested.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
Dave
wish-
had dune buggies.
Yeah.
Dave had an amazing collection of stuff.
He's the
Collected
guy that
everything.
used to have them crazy mini bikes too, right? He'd ride
Yeah,
around.
he'd come to the
Yeah.
he'd come to the this year he brought a Cushman, and this past year
Yeah.
he brought a Cushman, and he has this crazy go-kart that he paid $20 for online and then put it together. And he just had he always looked like the character from the Wacky Packages. He always reminded me of.
Yeah. 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 Ah, such a shame.
Yeah,
Terrible.
it's a
Terrible,
sad
terrible.
story, but when I spoke with his wife Anna Tar, and she said he's got a lot of unfinished projects. She goes, it would be an honor if you would take one and finish it.
Oh
And
wow, that'd be amazing. Yeah.
she's really having a hard time. Obviously, she posts about it, and I'm just giving her some space. But every once in a while, I check in with her and I just say, hey, if you need anything from me, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
And
Are they local?
he's in
To us?
Marion, Connecticut.
Connecticut, so not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But anyway, I didn't mean to bring the story down, but there is
No,
a
not at
dune
all.
buggy available at
Yeah.
the Rat's
My-
Nest event.
if I bring
I'll
a
find
dune
out more.
buggy, another dune buggy home, my wife, I might be, I might be at your barn,
Well,
sleeping in that hearse.
just make sure the dune buggy's got comfortable seats in it. You might
Yeah,
be sleeping
exactly.
there.
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's always one thing that this is what I say about the car, and I've talked about it on the podcast. With this car, it's such a big project. You're just going to attack a little bit at a time. And thank God for Rob, because I'll leave Rob alone, and I'll come in, and he'll be like, for instance, all the brake lines are run. I'm like, what? You did oh my God!
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I was
yeah.
going to help, but I'm glad that's done.
do you find yourself saying, "Oh, when I get back, I'm gonna do this," knowing that he'll do it while you're gone?
Well, Rob likes to his credit, he likes to tackle the complicated things. He
Yeah,
really goes after
yeah.
some of the real complex stuff, like the brake lines. And when he in the video where he demos how he crushes the tube and does the flare on the tube, I didn't know all that.
Yeah.
I totally thought it was a different method. Thank God he got in front of me,
And
because I would have
he's 12 years old.
yeah, I would have fucked up like 6 connections before I realized I was doing it wrong.
Yeah,
We would have had
yeah.
to wait on fucking Amazon to send over another roll of fucking tubing.
That kid has so much information for somebody so young. He's gonna be
He's definitely beyond his years. It's funny, but nowadays we all learn on YouTube. So I probably would have done a YouTube search just to make sure I was doing it right before like I said. Now with Amazon, it's like I don't have the time to wait 20 hours. I want to do it now, with Amazon. And then Rob's like, wait, do we need the 3/16? Do we need the 1/4 inch? I'm like, I open my phone. I'm like, I just ordered 3 of each. It'll be here in a minute. Now we got like 65 extra feet of brake line laying around in like 3 different sizes. Yeah. And I just kept buying fittings. I'm like, there's going to be a moment where we don't have the right fitting. Yeah. I have like a coffee jar full of fittings, all different shapes, sizes, blocked connections. And in the comparison on the internet, it's like $100 worth of stuff.
Yeah.
Like all the brake line stuff. The brakes themselves and the cylinders and all that stuff are expensive.
Yeah. I'm getting ready to do all that. I got to go through the brakes on both the buggy and the bug. And, yeah. So I'll have a bunch of extra stuff too.
I made a joke. I said the car that Amazon built, because everything, you just whip open Amazon. I was looking at it. I was like,
it's so crazy.
I'm looking at all these specialty speed shops for the radiator. I interchangeably use radiator and radiator because as a New Yorker, I don't know which is the right way to say it anymore. So I use both. I figure 50% of the time I'll be right. And I'm looking online. It's like $600-$700 for the right radiator, and I just went on Amazon and I found one for $200. That'll do.
Yeah. I think if you come north of Dutchess County, it's radiator, and you go south of Dutchess County, it's radiator.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, could be.
What do you say, Jeff? I trust the Midwest.
I usually call it a radiator. But I mean, I learned radiator in Kentucky area, I think. So wherever that goes.
Yeah. I trust that better, radiator. I say because every once in a while I'm like the radiator. Everyone's like the radiator.
You gonna pack your car?
That's the Jersey accent there, I think.
Yeah.
Radiator.
So, what's up with a computerized bandsaw? How computerized is a bandsaw possibly? I mean, you can't CNC that shit, but what
I'm
does it
gonna
do?
find. I'm gonna find out. I don't know. It tells you the tension and the speed. So that's what I think. You could dial in the speed on the screen, and you could dial in the tension. It would be
Okay.
nice. I don't know if or how. I think there's like a meter. I only saw a quick I haven't plugged it in yet, so I only saw a quick woodworking show preview. That was the only. So like I don't think it's even released yet. So I don't even know. I got to double check with them tomorrow. If it,
Mm.
they've reposted my stories and no one's telling me stop talking about it because there is like a release date for this thing.
Mhm.
So they want to coincide with a certain date, which I got to find out what it is. But I think when you tension it up, there's like a green line that like it tells you the right tension, like that. So there's a meter,
Okay.
like it's reading it's just basically what it is that red thing that's inside the spring window
Yeah, yeah.
turned into
Yeah.
a computer graphic, basically.
Uh-huh. So
Digital.
can you
Yeah.
like release tension when you're like when you turn it off? Does it automatically release tension for
There
you?
is a tension bar that you pull into place, just like a typical Laguna or something.
So it's
So
still the same. It's still the same thing. It's just reading the
yeah.
gauge for you. Okay.
I don't know, but it would be nice if you could put a metal blade on this thing and dial it all the way down to a certain speed. But
Oh,
I
like a
don't. I
speed
don't.
control. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll find out. I don't
Yeah.
know. But
Okay.
I don't really have a good. Besides the big giant bandsaws that I use, I don't have a bandsaw that is really dedicated for resawing.
Hmm.
And those I'll just eyeball a resaw, but I'm not going for like any veneers or anything.
Yeah.
And for this saw, it's so dialed in. It's got such a beautiful fence system and guide system. For those, I might just dedicate. Ultimately, after I do this demo with it, I might just dedicate it just to like
Hmm.
sawing veneers and stuff
Yeah.
because it's like
A
such a.
good setup. I mean, you've got
Well,
30,
Mm.
you can
but
dedicate a bandsaw to any one specific task you might ever have when you've got 30 of them, right?
yeah.
Yeah, we're clearing out my dad. My dad died about a year ago, and we're
Hmm.
clearing his house out. He's got like 8 bandsaws in the basement.
Oh my God.
And my sisters, my brother, my cousin lives nearby, and Joey's like, we have to give John the good band. So I was like, that's fine. If everything says, oh, once the dust settles, I'll take whatever's still left, which will probably be 7. After
Just
John,
what
my
you
cousin
needed.
John takes.
Well, if you think
So,
of it, give me a call. I might take one off your hand.
all right, I'll see. Honestly, I mean,
If you've got, yeah,
I've been taking stuff from my dad's house because it's stuff that I don't need.
yeah,
I just don't want to see it go in a dumpster. So we're going to have at the Black Dome, we're going to have a sale in August
nice,
8th, the weekend
yeah,
of August 8th, 9th, and 10th, I think.
yeah.
And I'll bring
I've
some stuff there, even just to give it away.
I've got I've got the little Rikon like Dave Pacino has, the little
Hmm.
9-inch jobby, which it's nice for quick cut. And
Hmm.
then I've got an 18-inch jet that I've got set up for resawing, so I could use like a 14-inch everyday curve.
Oh yeah, I'll set you
Y-
up. I got one in the
Okay.
house now. The funny thing when I got that Rikon and I was like, oh, this will be good for doing demos, and I bought it. I brought it to do a demo at Filson one year. This is like 7 years ago. When
Yeah,
I was done with it, I just said, who in the audience wants this band? So I don't feel like
yeah,
taking it home. It's such a
yeah,
piece of garbage.
yeah. Well, I don't want to say it now, but my Rikon it came from Vincent.
I gave mine to JT TJ JT Johnny Trembukis. He does a lot of the Japanese screens.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I
Yeah,
think I
yeah,
know who you're talking about. Yep.
JT Johnny. I gave it to Johnny, and he took it home and used it. But I mean, for him, that was just the beginning of his
It's
woodworking
with a
experience.
tiny blade. It's a perfect and just a quick
Yeah.
walk over and zip. But to work on it all day, every day, no, I wouldn't want to.
I was trying to sculpt the handle of a axe in person
Yeah, it's
as a
not
demo. You really need
underpowered.
something
Yeah, yeah,
way underpowered for that.
yeah.
That's probably not got the balls for that.
No, I was like
There's
trying to tell
I think it's
jokes
like
while
a
the bandsaw
third
blade.
horse.
now there's a debate about how good a tool is, and it really has a lot to do with what your expectations are and what you plan on doing with it.
True.
If you
That's
want to
true.
shape an axe handle, you better have something that's got 220 volts and a big ass motor
Yeah,
on it
yeah.
versus if I want to cut a piece of plywood in half with a curved line, it's fine because I've got the same little Rikon. it works fine for me because I don't try to do big projects with it. I don't do anything ambitious.
Well, I have
It's like a
this is a
detailing
fault.
tool. You can't do roughing with a detailing tool. Is what you're
This
trying
is
to
my
do.
fault. I always assume that everything will be fine as long as there's a brand new sharp blade on it, which is
Right.
not the case because you need a certain, what is it? The speed is
Power.
like feet per
Horsepower.
second. Yeah, horsepower, the power behind. Yeah.
It hasn't
it
got the
was like
horsepower to do your kinds of fun.
no,
But
and that's why years ago, about 5 years ago, I made a dedicated. I talked about it on the Fitzall. I want tools that I'd rather the tool rip my finger off in the unlikely chance it's going to pull my hand off. I'd rather that than spend a lifetime of waiting for the machine to catch up to my no stalling. No machines that stall like drive me crazy. Like I said, I'd rather rip my hand off than stall.
Yeah. Actually, I think stalling is more dangerous.
And I'm just saying, like when you like stick
yeah.
something in a saw and it just goes,
Yeah.
and then you hear click, you hear the motor click off because
no, that's
you
done.
didn't react fast enough.
That tool's done.
The table saw that coincidentally that I ended up cutting my pinky off with. You can see the scar here. I got like a weird shaped pinky. That table saw was probably like a 1.5 horsepower Delta panel saw, which was old, probably from 1960s.
Yeah.
And I'd run the hell out of that thing until every once in a while I would just go, I'd hear the click, the motor, the overheat.
Yeah.
And now I get the 7.5 horsepower saw stop.
Saw stop. Yeah.
And as hard as I push into that thing, it does not stall. I've never got it to the area.
With 7.5 horsepower, you could probably cut cinder blocks with it.
Yeah, 3-phase too. 3-phase. So
yeah.
I had a 1970 Delta Rockwell 3-horse and zero. That saw scared the hell out of me. Zero safety features, and like you said, 2-inch rock maple, and just as hard as you can push it through, it would do it. Take it.
Yeah.
And now I've got the 3-horse saw stop, and I've never stopped it, but it's
powerful.
It doesn't feel like the same 3 horses that Delta had.
Oh, really? See, I got that too. I have the 3 and the 7. They sent me one of each. And,
I've never stopped it, but it's just like it just doesn't feel.
I think I've stopped it a couple times, just like really jamming like hard maple through it.
Yeah.
And one time I actually set the brake off. I mean, I've set the brake off on my skin a couple times, but I set the brake off just like pushing hard on it. And for some reason, it just set the brake off. I don't know why. There was no wetness or nails or anything.
Yeah.
But it was just like it just like basically like it needed a break. It was like I need a break. I need like 20-minute break while you change the brake and the blade, and it's like.
Does that scare the hell out of you? I haven't tripped mine yet. Is that?
I've tripped mine like 6 times, like 3 times with my skin.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I gotta slow down.
Well, you got to keep all 9.5 of those fingers you got left.
Yeah. Well, I trim mine off with a track saw.
Oh,
nice.
You can see that.
How'd you do that with a track saw? It's like
I was building. I got a job. I had to build 15 maple tables, so I just glued the tops up, threw them on a CNC, flattened them, just to mass produce. So I've got a bad back. So when the guys came in, I had a landscape company. So when the guys come in the morning, they would help me flip the table, and then I would flatten that side. And then when they came in at lunch, they'd put another blank up there for me. And I was in a hurry, not paying attention, and I needed to trim the end of the table off before they flipped it. And I'm trimming like a 1/2 inch off and just trimming along. And I'm like, oh, that's going to fall on the floor, and just reached in to grab the offcut and grabbed the bottom of the blade. Yeah. Took the end of that finger off. That finger left and broke this finger. Yeah, it wrecked me. And I had
you finish and I'll tell you a funny story.
My surgeon, we went to the ER. I get to the ER, most beautiful young little doctor, so cute, and she was so sweet. She goes, well, let's see what we got here. And she goes, so where's the rest of your finger? And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, you're missing some.
Oh,
I
didn't
even know it was gone. 3/4 of an inch of my finger was gone.
Oh, wow, because you just like wrapped it and held it.
Oh, I just grabbed it and I was in trauma mode. And then later that afternoon, I was in surgery, and when we were done, the doctor came in and said, "Man, that looked good." He goes, "You got a really good saw." And I was like, "What?" He goes, do you have a new blade or is that a quality saw? And I'm like, it's a Festool track saw. And he
Yeah.
goes, yeah. He goes, if that had been like a Black & Decker or Skill or something, he goes, usually hands that come in from skill saws are just mangled because they get pulled into the, they get just mangled up. And he goes, that saw cut your finger so clean.
My X-ray looks like
There's a Festool commercial for you right there.
Yeah.
Festool, it's so sharp it'll take your fingers right the fuck off.
You could see mine. The blade went halfway through the bone, and then the rest of the bone just broke because it was like no support. So
not
like
left
went
there,
halfway. Yeah, so you could see like a clean cut, and then from there out, it's just like broken parts. It looks kind of like a chopstick.
Yeah, but, that's what the tip looked like a Bugs Bunny cigar cartoon.
The doctor told me bones don't necessarily clean cut usually. He said most of the time they kind of splinter, like if you try to snap a bamboo stick. He said that's kind of what the bones do.
Yep.
But this is the funny story I was going to tell you. My dad's friend, a guy lived on my dad's block 20 years ago, was cutting a piece of wood through a crummy table saw, and as it rode up over the blade, he pushed it down right over the blade because he couldn't see the blade, like the blade disappeared, so he went to push down, and the curve of the blade deepest was right through his two middle fingers. So the deepest, most damage was right through his two middle fingers. The doctor splintered them with steel pins, and his hand was all wrapped up.
Saved
work. Him? Yeah, I saved him. I met the guy. His hand's like shaking shaking a woolly mitt. But the doctor said don't work and don't do anything. So he was trying to hang a picture for his wife like a week later, and the screw gun got wrapped up in his bandage and yanked the pins. I know. Can you believe it? Yeah. I met the guy that year after that, and he was my dad's neighbor down the street. Like my dad because that's the guy with the bad hand. And then one day we went in and he said hi, and I shook his hand, and I knew his hand had been damaged by the saw, and his hand was. It's obviously like you get a hand injury, it's never the same.
Yeah.
Like they attached his pinky, but nothing really works.
No.
Like
cold?
And
do you have cold?
Oh
like
yeah, it hurts.
No circulation.
Cold.
Yep.
And they told me, the doctor said, you got to be careful because you have limited feeling because you're going to hurt it, not know that you hurt it. And you can
Constantly.
see there.
Yep.
You see that's from me. Positioning a sheet of plywood on the CNC machine to bring it back to CNC digital stuff. and I banged the corner of the plywood between my pinky and the rail.
Yeah.
The whole end of a big sheet right there on the tip of my pinky. And it was like 3 hours later, I'm like, why does my pinky hurt? It hurts like it didn't hurt when it happened earlier in the day, and I couldn't remember why it hurt.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I smashed it on the plywood.
Yeah. Mine's the nail is there now.
Yeah. It's a little baby part.
But it was gone. The nail was gone. I didn't know this, but your fingernail starts at your first knuckle.
Yep.
The whole nail bed. And I said, he goes, the nail's going to come back. And I'm like, no. I don't want it. It's going to look ugly. He goes, you don't want to take it off. You want that nail there for protection. And man, because I hit it on everything, like you said, and it's like, I can't feel anything, but if you hit it, it fucking hurts like a son of a bitch.
You see, I'm missing the part of my fingertip from broken glass.
Jesus.
It happened when I was 17. I went to grab a bottle, and my brother stepped on my hand on top of the bottle.
Oh.
Cut the whole, it was like when it was happened, it looked like this, like that, and it filled in over time. Yeah. So you can see it's missing over the fingernail.
I never hurt myself on anything major. I hurt myself on the stupidest shit. I mean, I'm always cautious when I'm using saws and routers and freaking all of that shit. I will turn around and bash the back of my hand on a fucking vise. And,
I've done that.
I do that shit all the fucking time. I always hurt myself on the dumb shit.
You want to hear a dumb injury I got? This was 35 years ago. I was working in my shop down in my mother's basement, and it was a hot summer day, so I had no shoes on, and I'm walking around. And when you like get your pinky toe caught on something?
Yeah.
Did you ever lean like a pile of glass against the wall and you get your pinky toe caught on it when you're walking by at full speed? I was afraid to look down. I thought my pinky toe was gone.
Gone.
I was afraid.
Was it?
It just gave me a real. And I didn't go and get stitches, but it just like huge gash in between my pinky
Uh-huh.
toe and the next toe over, just like stubbing it against a piece of glass on the wall.
And your foot takes 9 years to heal.
I lived through that one. That was a tough one. But I really, from the impact, it was really more of like the blunt force trauma of just like banging your foot on a piece of furniture, but a naked foot into a pile of glass that was leaning on the wall. And I got a
Yeah.
pretty severe cut, but not enough to go to the hospital.
Oof.
Ouch.
Well, I didn't mean for this to become an injury podcast.
Yeah.
I always like talking about cuts. I like hearing other people's injuries. They're great.
Well, I almost had my arm ripped off by a dog, if that helps.
Oh, really?
That sounds like
Yeah.
fun.
I was 11, had 175 stitches.
Oh, man.
Yikes.
That's why my arm's all tattooed up, so you don't see the scars.
Oh, wild.
But
Oh, God. Getting a tattoo and a scar must hurt.
No, you can't feel anything. This whole arm, this is the same with the finger and everything. I can't feel hardly any of this arm.
Nice.
My brother had 2 Rottweilers when we were living in the city together. We shared the
Mhm.
shop, and we both had our own apartments right down the block. So we were always in the shop. This was in the 90s. And he had 2 Rottweilers. They both weighed like 100 and plus. And I occasionally would walk them, even though I hated walking them, because when a rat would run across the street, they would literally, like, I never got pulled over, but several times I almost did. And I would walk them and just the whole entire time, just be ready to be yanked over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's no fun. So it's like, I only did it when I had to. It wasn't fun for me to have Rottweilers in Manhattan. But it was the closest thing to actually carrying a gun on your hip for my brother. That's why he wanted them.
It makes
Legally.
sense. Yeah.
Legally.
Yeah, they're pretty solid protection walking up the street.
Yeah. Lower East Side in the 90s and the 80s. Yeah, it was tough.
Rough.
Yeah.
Rough
I
area.
got a couple of mastiffs that would do that job nicely.
Oh, yeah. There was a woman on my block that had 2 masters, and they were like 4 feet high. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I have little dogs now. If I can't control it with one hand, I don't want nothing to do with it.
I like little dogs.
Yeah. The mastiffs aren't even my biggest. We got a Great Dane too.
That's what bit me.
Wow.
I was mauled by a Great Dane.
Really?
Yeah.
They're usually so goddamn friendly.
They usually are. Yeah. It's unfortunate. Sadly it was an abused dog, so it wasn't even really his fault.
Anybody will snap when you've been abused enough.
Sure, absolutely.
I tell anybody that I know, keep your face away from a dog. You don't want to lose the tip of your nose.
Yep. I can remember, I was young, I was like 11, and I remember when he jumped at me, I put my arm up, and all I remember is these giant white triangles, like right in front of my face.
Wow.
Like I could just see his teeth,
Well, the Dane doesn't have to jump up to get in your face.
No, no, especially not at 11.
Exactly.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a bad time. It was a rough recovery because he separated this muscle. I don't even know if it'll show, but you can kind of see the hole.
Oh,
right
yeah.
there.
Wow.
Yeah. So this muscle split right here and balled up. Half of it was balled up on my hand, and the other half was above my elbow. So they had to pull all that back.
Yikes.
And then his fang had dented my bone. And I didn't know this at the time. Well, I still don't really understand, but I guess that's like bruising your bone is bad.
Yeah, you get bone infection, then you can't get rid of it.
It caused an infection. They took all the stitches out, and this part of it right here just opened back up.
Yeah, bone infections don't heal. That's the problem.
It was 3 weeks.
That would have been the reason why you lost your arm.
That's what he said. We're gonna like it was crazy antibiotics, and they were like, if this doesn't clean up in like 48 hours, we're gonna
I know a lot of weird doctor shit and a lot of weird lawyer shit.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, I always say I'm not a doctor, but I play one on Instagram.
No, that's funny. Like I've gotten a lot of puncture wounds, and my big concern is getting a puncture wound. Is like, did I just infect my bone?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like more dangerous than the cut itself.
Absolutely.
Because if I just implanted like infection into like my finger bone, forget it.
It'll go right through your body. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeek. Well, I guess we could shift gears here. How about we?
Wait. This is a digital podcast, right?
We've done enough pain and misery. Let's go with triumph here for once. Let's talk about that thing you made for the oh shit, the trade show you just did with the CNC with the lighting and the
Oh yeah,
plexi, and
that was a fun one. That was a fun one. That
that's
was
one of my favorite projects you've done in the last year or so.
oh, thank you so much. That was a tough one because it was a tight timeline. Even though it was for the Consumer Electronics Show, I have an agreement now with Eaton. They're going to be supplying me with electrical supplies for the Graveyard House. And one of the first projects in our agreement was, let's make the sign to bring some awareness for the show, and also you get to show the branding off and get to have some fun on the CNC machine. And the idea was to CNC close through the material right to the face. And I tried a couple of different cuts until I was about 10, 15, I forget how many thou it was from the front.
Oh,
But it was so close to the front to get a nice sharp light. It was only
image.
1/4 inch
Yeah.
plexi.
Yeah.
And if I cut, so what is a 1/4 inch? Is
2.5.
0.25, right? So if I cut down to about 50 or 30 thou from the front, and that's not a lot of room if you don't have a dead flat table. So I was afraid that, and I skimmed my table so that it would be clean in preparation for this job. And then I laid the thing down, and I was like, the piece of plexi was like this, and the circle that I cut is a 5-foot circle. So I had to make sure that the whole 5-foot circle, or at least the majority of it, was flat down. So in fast thinking, the only thing I could think of was to spray glue it down to the table, because I knew the cut was going to take so long. I had to like take a break, and do the next, and then so I couldn't have the vacuum on the whole time. I never actually even turned my vacuum on because it's just too noisy.
Yeah.
So I spray glued it. I surfaced the table so it's dead flat, and then I spray glued my plexi to the table. So that, and then I just like slapped it all over the place, make sure that it was nice and choochy down to the piece. And then I ran the CNC, and the whole time I was just hoping that when I peeled that up, I wasn't going to peel it up and see tissue thin on some of the letters. And because, when you do a cut that takes 3 days,
Yeah.
but the bit could be working its way out by the time you're
Yeah.
all the way on the
If
other
somebody
side.
walks past it and farts, you can mess it up.
Yeah.
Right.
And so there have been times where I'm like running a long cut, like I didn't do it this time, but I actually put a Sharpie line on the bit so that I could peek every once in a while to see if it's coming out, like with the way they paint bus tires with like a little line so they can walk around and inspect.
How many words are on that thing? That's crazy. That
Oh,
you
I don't know, but
you didn't
it was
punch
taking
through.
so long to cut. I went on a Sunday afternoon. I said to Rachel, I said, I'm just going to go start this job. I said, I don't know, I'll be a couple hours. I figured I'd be halfway done with it. I was like a fourth of the way done with it, and I like finished at like 3 in the morning. I was like, I just kept going. I was breaking it into sections. I was like, let me just cut that. All right, let me go to the next section. Let me go to the next section. And every time I started the cut, it was like 4 hours.
You were running very conservative.
The next day, I called my guy at ShopBot, and I was like, is there any way I could speed this up? And he put me through some motions, which you guys probably know better than me. He's like, open up the thing, tap this, tap that. I have it on video. He gave me a video of it. And sure as hell, the thing started ripping through it. Now I'm like, I've gotten this far. Am I going to break it?
Right. Yeah.
And I was afraid either the bit was going to break or the plexi was going to give up and crack. Because you know how fragile plexi is, especially when you give it
even just
6,000
peeling it up.
That's what I'm saying. You give it like 6,000 perforations. When I went to peel it up, I think I was like, I think I either blew air under it or I might have had like a long steel rule or just something, so I didn't have to. That was my big fear, is now that it's got all these perfs in it, it's just going to crack right through the middle.
Any waving, yeah. So you had to mount that immediately, pretty much.
Well, I just made sure that every time I moved it, I try to move it as delicately as possible. But then I started to develop a little confidence in it. Then I glued the other layer on it, and that gave it some more thickness. Mm-hmm. So all the CNC'd areas were now protected by another layer of plexi. But because I lit up the whole interior of the sign, I couldn't really put any supports that would not show a standoff.
Yeah.
Any standoff I put. So basically had this big 6-foot circle, 5-foot, so 60-inch circle, 4-inch sides with a back, with a light up back, and
nothing to
packed
hold the
it in the crate. Yeah. And I just said, please don't break. I just said, please don't break. And then, and so I sent it there, so it goes away. It leaves like a month before the show, and it goes to some holding cell somewhere in Wisconsin or something, and then it makes its way to Vegas. And then I'm on the plane ride there, and I get a message from Craig. He's like, "We opened the sign," and I'm like, the next sentence is, "And it's broken." That's what I was waiting for.
Oh,
The
Right.
next sentence was, "It looks fine." I was like, "Okay, good."
you
And
had to pause.
then I get off.
Thanks for the pause there, man. You gave me a heart
Yeah, no,
attack.
that's how I was like waiting to. I saw the thought bubble, and I'm like, "Here it comes. It's broken." And then I get off my connecting flight, and it says, anytime you leave New York, Albany Airport, you got to stop 6 times, no matter where you're going,
Yep.
and you never stop anywhere you need to be.
No. No.
It's like
No.
I have to make a stop in Chicago for one trip on my way to Vegas, but in a couple months from now, I might need to go to Chicago. It's like, no, you got to go to South Carolina first. You can't go
Yeah,
to Chicago anymore direct.
Yeah.
It's
Or
so
you're
annoying.
you got to go to South Carolina. You're gonna stop in Vegas.
Exactly.
Right.
Leaving New York. So anyway, so I get off one of my flights, and then Craig sends me a message. He says, "Hey, did you pack the controllers? Because we can't find them." And I was like, "Somebody's lying to you, dude." I said, "I know I packed them." I sent screenshots of the video that's published that you could see the baggie with things in it. And I took pictures. I always take a million pictures, especially when I know other people are going to try and lie. I take a million pictures of the crate, everything. Oh, this is how it showed up. I'm like, oh, that's not how it left. So I just want to make sure I cover my ass.
CYA.
And so
Wow.
I sent a snapshot of course, with the edited finger draw on it. There it is, circled. There's the, and so I left it on the color blue. So when they plugged in the sign, it was on the color blue, which is their brand.
Yeah.
I said, but it was this, this greenwash thing where it was supposed to look like an outlet that came off of a leaf or something. And I told them I go, it looks really good and looks the best in green, like happens to be the best color, which is really kind of the message. And he's like, yeah, they can't find the remote controls. And the funny story is that I left the show a day early. So I found the lights online and I sent them the link. I was like, these are the lights that I bought. So if you buy it, I'm sure the remote control will work for this, even though they're all the same frequency. They don't really care. And so he ordered them. They should have showed up while I was still at the show. They didn't. They were a day late. And when I left, I got in a cab and I left the hotel and I drove past the back of the convention center. And there was what seemed like probably 10,000 crates, including the one that I couldn't pick the one I made out, but I just happened the cab just drove around the back of the convention center, and all those are the crates, because Craig said the crate is gone. It's like we won't see it until it's time to leave. And behind the convention center was like a graveyard of just like packing crates.
And they were in there.
Yeah, one of them was my crate that I built. Anyway, so the last day that I wasn't at the show, they got the remote and they turned it to green. He said, "You're right, the green is the best." So he sent me a picture of it. He said, "Green is the best color."
Nice.
So that's the story of that sign. I couldn't put any standoffs inside of it. I was just too nervous.
So how did you keep the center of it from being like a drum and just?
It was basically a drum. It got some extra tension from the second layer, which I flooded with methylene chloride to glue them together good.
Yeah.
And then also, I shipped it standing up like a piece of marble. Like
right.
When you move a piece of stone, you always have to, or like a countertop,
or glass.
you always have, you always got to kind of keep it upright. So I put all over it upright, keep upright. So, but you don't know. The thing could fall flat on its face on a loading dock from the wind.
Yeah,
you don't know.
You got monkeys shuffling crates around. Yeah.
Because it was basically, the crate was about 10 inches wide by basically 6 feet by 6 feet. So it was like this big, odd shape that hopefully it just stood on its end. And then what I do is when I make a crate that is that tall and skinny, I always put 2x4s as the feet so that a forklift can get under it, or you could put a rolly up. But I also make them a little wider. So if the crate is 10 inches, I made sure the feet are like 13 inches. The 2x4s that are the bottom. I always do that. So it gives it just a little, that 1 inch could really save it from tipping over in a certain circumstance.
Hey, that 1 inch helps anywhere.
It helps everybody.
Some young kid with a forklift and no idea what he's doing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You don't know.
I got
a plan for the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
There's a funny story when my 7 horsepower saw stop showed up when I was upstairs, or when I got upstate. I happened to find pictures of it a couple of days ago. I don't know why. the guy goes, he goes, "Hey, I'm over at your shop." I said, "I'm working my way over there. I'll be there in a minute." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I just took it off the truck." He goes, "It looks like somebody poked it with a forklift." He goes, "Your wheel's
Oh,
broken off and there's a big dent in it." He goes, "Do you still want it?" I said, "No." I said, "I'll be there." He was describing to me on the phone, and so when I got it, I was pulling up as he was like taking it off the truck, and the wheel, the to turn it up and down was like shattered off and like hanging. The hoop was like hanging on what was
oh my
left over,
God.
and there was like a big, like 6-inch wide, like flat screwdriver dent right in the side of the cabinet, and it looks like it had fallen over,
Huh.
and the handles were broke. I was like, "Nope, send it back." They sent me a new one 2 weeks later.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Forklift
well,
damage.
Well, let me change gears, and I think
Mhm.
I'm sure this is a question that Jeff wanted to ask, but I'm going to jump right all over him here.
10
You
inches.
you
Oh, sorry.
nice. I knew it. They don't call you the Godfather for nothing. As I roll into the Godfather, everybody knows who Jimmy Diresta is. Everybody's heard
Maybe.
a lot of your stories, and
Well, thank you.
anybody that's important knows.
Thank you.
But but there's a time like you were joking when we first started. You referred to yourself as a boomer, you know. But but there was a time that you went from routers and screwdrivers and jigsaws and table saws to lasers, and
Yeah.
not that you don't use that. So how was that transition? I'm kind of going through it myself as a 50-plus-year-old
Yeah.
getting into digital, you know. So what tools were not? I mean, we don't need a timeline, but like, what were
But
your first? How did you dip your toes into digital
I'll tell
creation?
you flat out, I know the exact moment. Went to a couple of maker fairs. My first maker fair, I guess, was in 2011. It was my first maker fair in New York,
Huh.
and I started seeing like all the wooden 3D printers that were out, the bamboo kits. I think no, not bamboo. What was that first 3D printer company? Now the guy has
Prusa?
Bantam. No, there was
No.
now he has Banta. It was like a huge. It went from like he went to like a millionaire in like a couple of years. I can't remember his name. It was Bree Pettis. Remember Bree Pettis? See,
No.
you guys must have got in late. The first couple of maker fairs I was at, Bree Pettis had a 3D printing company, and he's the one who like sold out to some giant company, and it was a real big deal. But the first maker fair I was at, they were made out of wood. They were laser
Really?
cut out of wood with threaded rod that would send the parts around. So those are I was at Maker Faire that early where the only 3D printers that were being shown were made out of laser cut wood.
That's
And
crazy.
I looked at that and I was like, never gonna
Nope.
need that shit. We're never gonna need that. And then I walked past the Epilogue laser thing and I'm like, I'll never be able to afford that shit. And then I walked past like the CNCs and I'm like, I'm never gonna need that shit. I know how to use a bandsaw.
Right.
And so I basically was like I was a hand tool snob primarily because I was jealous.
Uh-huh.
And I look back, I was like, I would love to use a laser. I would love to use a CNC, but I don't think I either could afford it nor can I have the temperament to learn how to use it. And it wasn't as integral in everybody's day to day as it was to become. And so it was around 2012, 2013, maybe like a year and a half, maybe 2 years later, when I was watching a little kid at the New York Maker Faire, like hit the computer buttons to send the shop bot to go do something. And I was like, that that kid is like, that's me at a scroll saw, what we used to call a jigsaw,
Uh-huh.
1975. He's at a CNC machine. Like
Yeah.
this, like that, like what's it going to be when he's 48 years old?
Hmm.
And I was like, I better learn this shit. So around shortly thereafter, I went to the ShopBot booth and I was like, how much is that machine? How much is that? It's like the ShopBot desktop, 18 by 24. They said, oh, it's about $6,000 or $7,000. And I was like, all right. So I got home and I called them and I was like, I want a ShopBot desktop. And I had a credit card. I put it on my Citibank credit card with the $25,000 limit. So I bought ShopBot desktop in 2013. It came May of 2013. And the guy calls me. He's up Avenue B. He's like, hey, I'm outside your shop with a delivery from ShopBot. And I go outside and I go, I don't see you. He goes, yeah, I'm right in front of Ben's Deli. I'm like, that's like 2 blocks from my shop. He goes, well, I'm parked if you don't mind, because come. So I walked up the block to the truck, and he opens the back, and the shop bot is on its side, and the pallet is here.
Uh,
I go, that doesn't look like it's supposed to be like that. And he goes, I don't know, dude. I just drive the truck. And I go, well, so we flip it onto his pallet, and he puts it on a jack, and we drag it all the way down because they want to move his truck. So we dragged it to my shop, and he helped me carry it down the stairs. It's heavy. It's really heavy. It's like 180 pounds, maybe 200 pounds. And it sat there in the corner of the shop. I had no idea what to do with it. I didn't have the faintest idea what to do with it.
this is the
And
basement
then,
shop.
yep. So
Yep.
that was May, June, July, August, September. Now it's 4 months later. I still haven't touched it. I don't know what to do with it.
He's
Yeah,
made
I'm
4
lying. I
payments.
actually started playing with it. I actually started playing with it right at the end of the summer, and I started figuring out what to do with it. And we were joking about 3D cut paths, right? We just joked about that in the beginning of the conversation. I didn't know the difference between a 2D cut path and a 3D cut path. Somehow I accidentally made a 3D cut path for my logo, and I put a chunk of plastic in there, and it would go like this. It would go. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And it took like 2 hours to cut them. Like, that's a really long time to cut my logo out. But I cut a chunk of plastic with my logo cut out of the top. But the CNC went up and over and up and over and up and over. And I used like a 16th-inch ball nose. So the step over was like,
Right.
2%.
And you were
But I
cutting
didn't.
air. You were cutting
Yeah.
air.
Air most of the time. 3D cut paths on a 2D project is a lot of air
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, because it was going up and over every letter.
Yep.
I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. And so then this is a really long story, but I'll wrap it up. One day I set a cut path, and I hear the thing whining and whining and whining, and it doesn't sound like it's cutting anything. I come in the room, and one of the lead screws had broken off right at the motor.
Oof.
Right at the motor. So the motor is turning, and the lead screw was not turning. And I look in and I see it separated right where the motor is. So my brain's like, okay, now I'm finally seeing the net result of it being on its side in the back of a truck for who knows how many hours it was driving that way.
Bouncing. Yeah.
And so I call up ShopBot, and they're like, oh, we'll just send you a new stepper motor with this 24-inch lead screw on it. It shows up, and I'm like, I go, to be honest, I was a little annoyed with them at this point, and I didn't have any relationship with them. I was just a customer at the time. I was like, frankly, I'm annoyed. I said, you send me this thing. I go, I don't even know how to use this machine. I'm just trying to learn it. And you send me, like, there's nobody in the region that you could send over to repair it? I don't know how to repair this thing. I go, I got a $7,000 paperweight. I don't even know what to do with it. And they're like, look, you're in New York. We're going to be in New York for the Maker Faire. Just bring your machine, and we'll fix it for you there. I was like, all right. And at that time, I was kind of associated with Make Magazine because I was doing the videos by them at that point. And so I brought the machine to them. They fixed it that morning. They put the new lead screw and everything in place for me. And they ran it all day long just to make sure there was, so they kept using it as one of their test things. And I sat down with somebody there, and I was like, I have no idea how to use this thing. I go, I thought I did. I don't know. They're like, well, what kind of path? You want to do a 3D cut path or a 2? I go, I don't even know what that means. So the person opened up VCarve and showed me where you could do a 3D cut path, you could do a 2D cut path. And I realized how much simpler a 2D cut path could be if you didn't need a 3D cut path. And I got about a 20-minute education with that person, showed me how to use VCarve, and that literally set me on the path of like, you gave me enough so that now I can go and explore this software on my own. Because I know how to use Illustrator, which is basically a version of Illustrator with the cut paths output.
That's amazing.
And then I knew enough. This is the other thing too, is a lot of times you got to know when you know enough to understand the education. So I didn't know enough to even understand the education I was going to try and get. Like I hadn't found the beginner video. Like I couldn't find it. I also didn't understand or know enough to be aware of what the beginner video was. So when I had that little beginner crash course with the person there, I wish I could remember the person's name. That gave me the wherewithal to then go start looking on YouTube for, and they have horrible tutorials. ShopBot has horrible tutorials, but I was starting to look up tutorials for.
They all do.
Yeah, but I was looking at tutorials like tutorials that like we would make as a community
Yeah.
for Vectrix and those type of things. You know, those are the more obviously the more informative ones because they answered pointed questions and they had specific things to teach versus like, oh, when you open your ShopBot, you know, those like they're too broad.
Yeah.
But and that's really where it started. And then I became dangerous. I knew enough to start experimenting. And then the first big job, I always do a lot of work for Bullet Bourbon. This is when I forget. This was when This was in 2014. Bullet Bourbon had surpassed like 13,000 cases of liquor in a year or something, and they wanted me to make a barrel head with the CNC that said, you know, congratulations to the Tom Bullitt, the owner, who doesn't own it anymore. But and I CNC'd a perfect circle out of a barrel head to take a perfect circle of MDF. And on the MDF, I cut out what appeared to be a bronze casting.
Yeah.
But with the right color paints and stuff, it looked just like a bronze casting. So it looked like a bronze casting plaque, just inset right into a barrel head. And I was like, whoa, the cut's like perfect. And I did a pocket cut path between the letters and the edge with a V bit. So
it
it
had a
looked
shadow line. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked really, really pretty. And it was the very first thing I did, and I charged a couple $1,000s for each of them. And I was like, I made like $4,000 on like my first job.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was the saga of my 24 by 18 ShopBot desktop, which I still have. And then I bought another one from Brian Prusa, not to be confused with the printing company, but you guys know Brian Prusa? He's in the community. He lives in Ohio. So Brian sold me his second. So I have two ShopBot desktops, but I obviously made a deal with them in 2018, 2017. They gave me the Alpha. I became friendly with them, of course, as my popularity grew. And then I said to them, I got a new big shop. I'm moving out of the city. If you guys want to give me a big CNC machine, I'd be happy to show it off for you. You know, the deal is you give it to me, and what you get is some exposure. And that's so it was like a 2-year deal, and they were going to decide to take it back. They never did, so I still have it.
Nice. What's the tiny one? I've seen it. You had a tiny one too, right?
That's the ShopBot desktop. Yeah, that's a small one. Yeah.
Okay.
It's got the blue colors and everything, so it looks the branding looks similar.
Yeah.
I think it's fun the way you've started to use it so much more with the things that you've always been doing. I remember hearing you say something. You made that the cabinet for your leather shop like last summer, last fall, or something.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's like you would make something like that 5 or 10 years ago, and you'd have been running that stuff through the table saw for like 6 weeks. But when you made this one last year, you just like CNC'd out all the drawers and the fronts and all the pieces and just started snapping it together. And it's good to see how you fully embraced the things that you can do with that now that you're you figured out how the Vectrix works, at least.
Yeah. And I'm an idiot. When I make boxes, like open-ended boxes, like drawers, for instance, I never put in the wishbones. Is that what they're called? Dog bones? I never put the dog bones in because I don't like the way they look. It kind of exposes you as a CNC artist.
Oh, for the
I always leave them
takes
out.
care of the inside corners.
Yeah, and so I spend half my time filing off the little sharp corner off of the tongue that goes into it.
Nice.
So I spend like hours like this on the vise with nobody looking with a file, just filing over the roundovers on all the things. Or I'll use, if I have the time, because you got to take several more passes. I'll use an 1/8 inch bit on 1/2 inch material. And the 1/8 inch bit gives you such a small radius, you could kind of mush it together, and you don't have to stand there. Well, I'll do that too. But now I might be getting a laser from which I'll be able to cut 1/2 inch plywood. I'm getting an Aeon 130 watt CO2 laser.
They're a real up and coming.
If I can laser through 1/2 inch plywood, forget it. I'm going to make a whole new set of drawers.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I've got a 4.5 watt diode, and it takes me about 5 minutes and 30 passes to get through an eighth of an inch piece of plywood.
Yeah. Take that thing and throw it in the ocean.
Yeah.
Well, I mainly do.
If you're engraving.
I basically use it to engrave my logo on the bottom of weird shit.
Yeah. That's it.
And
So that's just so like engraving business cards and stuff. I have the fiber laser. I have a 60-watt fiber laser, which I really love. Uh, when you realize how long it takes to really fiber laser metal, you're almost like, all right,
It's
I don't want to do this anymore.
forever. Yeah.
like you see Nick Purcell's, he's doing the new axe company he's doing with his buddy. Yeah. And the laser etch is unbelievable. It's like, looks like it's a 1/4 inch deep. I'm like, dude, that looks insane.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, it took 10 hours. I'm like, I'd be
Yeah.
afraid to run my laser for that long. I'd be afraid it was going to break,
right, it's gonna burn up.
But he
in
said,
no time.
yeah. But I have laser etch things that do take a considerably long time. Like I'll show you guys. This isn't. This was exclusive 10 minutes ago, but it's not exclusive anymore because they were already doing some PR on it. But I did. If anybody follows my Patreon, did you guys happen to see the cast apples? I showed them on Instagram for a minute.
I saw
The
you
cast,
were making the project. Yeah.
yeah, the cast metal apples with a Carhartt.
Yep.
Carhartt is doing a teacher award for shop teachers, and so they're giving away a steel apple, which is something that some ad agency came up with, which is I thought it was a good idea. So I'm making the steel apples, and they sent me the rotary, and of course I didn't touch the rotary, but then I had to because I had to put the logo on this base. I'm trying to find a good picture of it. This isn't the best picture of it, but you could see the Carhartt logo etched
Nice.
into the
Okay.
round rotary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll appreciate this, Jeff. So the letters on the rotary was stacking up. I was telling I never used the rotary. I plugged it in. I figured it
gotta
out.
have
I
the
went online,
timing.
watched some
Yeah.
YouTube videos,
Yeah.
and it was the diameter of your material. I can't remember the specifics, but something where it's like the diameter of your material. And I set the diameter, and the letters would all stack up, even though the vectors are in the thing. They're grouped, but it's stacking them on top. So the Carhartt logo is like all the letters are overlapped. I did, of course, tests. So I had like one thing that I kept doing tests on, and it kept. And and then I'm like, well, let me tell it it's smaller just to see what happens. And then all of a sudden the letters spread out. And I was just doing a line cut on a piece of tape just so I could see the spacing, right? And I'm like, all right, I'll just lie to the computer every time and tell it it's a different size. I'll do a couple tests on a piece of tape.
I lie to my computer all the goddamn time.
Yeah, so I just instead somehow like a 3 1/4 inch piece of material. If I told it was 2 inches, is the perfect spacing. Like, I don't know why.
Problem
Problem
there's
solved,
a math,
right?
There's a mathable. You got no. That's not.
There's the right way, and then there's whatever the fuck works, man.
You gotta
100%.
figure out the degrees. Once you figure the degrees,
Listen. There's more to the story.
Okay.
So I get on the phone with Aeon Laser the next day, and they're like, I'm one of their influencers, so they put me right on the phone with the tech. Nice guy, really nice guy. He's like, oh yeah. He goes, okay, what you got to do is, he goes, go here. He goes, open your case up. I'm like, you mean the fucking computer case? He's like, yeah, just get a 3mm fucking hex head. So I take the whole case apart. He's like, now you see the circuit board? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you see the thing? I'm like, yeah. He's like, what does it switch to? Is it switch to A, B, B, C, D, D?
Dip
I'm like,
switches.
he goes, make it B, B, C, A, D, D. I'm like, all right. So I switch it. I'm like, this isn't going to fuck me up. He's like, no, this is going to make the rotary right.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool. And then he goes, do you have we went through a bunch of stuff, a bunch of settings and the rotary thing and the panel and the settings. And then he's like, you have the software? I'm like, yeah. He goes, put the thumb drive in. I stick the thing. He's like, blah, 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 select this, reinstall the software. I'm like, okay, great.
5400 stops. Yeah.
He goes, try it now. So after like 10 minutes of changing shit on the computer and the hardware, and I changed, I'm like, oh, it works. He's like, okay, cool. You're all set. I'm like, great. It thinks it's a 3-inch thing. It's laying out the logo correctly. And so I get confirmation that the job, they like everything. Okay, we're going to do 5. This was just the test one. So now it's like a week later. and I go to do like an actual one. And of course, I just don't trust it. I want to test it, so I lay a piece of tape on it and do a light line cut. Fucking stacks all the letters on top of one another.
Because you still
After
had
me
the lied
changing the hard,
information.
after putting the like literally doing switches inside the circuit board, reinstalling the software, we made a bunch of changes like deep in the software. It went right back to the way it was. I just said fuck it. I went in there. I told the thing it was a 2-inch piece, laid it out perfectly.
If it works,
Yeah.
don't.
But
If
what
it-
I don't understand
If it
is
looks
the
straight,
cat-
it is.
There you go.
What I don't understand is after we did like literally physically did all these different things to get it to be right.
It
wasn't
went
just
wrong
like,
again.
oh, try these settings.
Yeah.
It was more than just settings.
Yeah.
And it went back, and I was like, whatever. I don't give a shit. The next time I cut, I'm never gonna like put someone's logo on a cup or anything.
Yeah.
So,
That's weird. Like I had to go through your story. I'm sitting here shaking my head as you're telling the story, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
did it. I went through the same thing just with a different tech, but mine stayed. The only thing mine does weird is in Lightburn. I don't know if you use Lightburn or not,
yeah, I use Lightburn.
but if I take if I have a Diresta logo on my CO2 laser, and then I open it and I click it to the Aurora, the fiber laser, it inverts and goes upside down. And I'm like, what the? And you gotta highlight it, click it, because I don't know how to do anything except lie to it and flip it around.
Yeah.
But and nobody can tell me. They're like, yeah, that's just the way it is. I'm like, no.
Yeah. But I was just mystified that after all these like radical changes that we did,
Yeah.
it went back to the way it was. I was like, whatever.
Nice.
Have you messed with?
Apparently, the switches didn't matter as much as they thought they did.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Is that a pen body? I mean, I know it's a bullet, but are you using it as a pen body, or you just decorated it?
No, it just decorated it. I just put
Yeah.
We the People on it for this one.
Oh, right.
And
Yeah, that's cool.
I did it. This was one of them 3 hours.
Oh, yeah, yeah. It's not quite in focus, but I could see how is Medusa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wow,
there you
that's
go.
crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the other. I've got the blue fiber laser. 50 watt. I heard your last podcast that you're not a real fan of the blue right now.
Which one is the blue? I forgot.
Thunder.
Oh, Thunder. Yeah. Did I reveal too much on that? Bob and Dave were wincing when I was talking about everybody's name and all the brand deals that didn't go well.
You know, you got to be careful, but at the end of the day, you are telling us what to be concerned about.
Yeah.
As consumers. So no,
Yeah.
I don't think you did anything wrong.
Yeah.
But to that point, I couldn't get this thing focused, couldn't get it focused. And every time you autofocus it, I got to move it like a half an inch before it'll start engraving. And their answer is, "Oh, just make you a focus stick." I'm like, "Why did I pay for autofocus?" Well, yeah, you can't count on that. I'm like, then why did I pay for it?
Does it have the probe that
for it?
touches?
I'm sorry?
Does it have the probe that touches the autofocus?
This is the fiber laser. No, it just does it with a little red light thing.
Oh yeah.
I get it close, and now I just bump it in with. I made a gauge.
Well, I saw it online, and a few people told me they're like, just burn something and just keep changing it till it really starts cooking good, and that's the focal length.
Yeah.
And then make a story stick, so you know that.
That's that. Yeah. So English, put a little English on it, like you're shooting a rifle.
Exactly.
So just fudge it until it works.
Exactly.
But yeah, do you have? I've got the. Is this your rotary? This little guy?
It looks it's more in line. Like the 3-jaw chuck is right behind the motor.
Yeah,
and the
this
base
one
is underneath it.
So I can
Similar.
I can rotate it this way too.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. Look at you, fancy pants. 2 ways to fuck up the cut.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely. And I've got all kinds of shit to prove.
Extra axis is always good to fuck up extra things.
Oh my god! Like I so during the TV shoot we did, the Netflix show, I called up ShopBot. I'm like, hey, do you guys want to give us a dedicated machine for the episodes? And they're like, well, I said, do you want to give us a machine for the episodes, like a 4x4 or something? And they're like, we have a 4x8 that's all prepped and ready to go to the Vegas show, which would be available for us when your show is over, like according to the schedule. Like, so if we leave it at your place for the duration of the shoot, and by the end of July, we'll ship it to Vegas. I'm like, that sounds good. And they brought over everything with an automatic tool changer. Talk about adding fucking level of complexity to it. I'm like, you know what? Give me the fucking wrenches back. Like
Really?
the
Really?
automatic tool changer, it's like
There's another
fucking
layer
thing
of
is running
programming.
into the board. Like
Yeah.
Aaron, my you know Aaron. You met
Yep.
Aaron, right?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Aaron's my guy who passed away. Aaron figured it all out.
So
I couldn't go near it.
it's another level of programming. Yeah.
Probably
Fuck
not that complicated, but when
Yeah.
the thing crashed a few times, and it's supposed to, like, it's got those V-shaped bit hole. I forget what they're called.
Yeah. Those vac things.
Yeah, and it's supposed to, yeah, and we
Yeah.
needed an air compressor always running near it. I was like, you know what? This is fucking pain in the ass. I'd rather just go back to just using the wrenches.
I'm not
And then I
I'm
just
not
start
that
designing.
busy.
Yeah, exactly. And then I just start designing everything around just a 1/4-inch bit, like everything I need. Like this is a 1/4-inch down
How
cut.
can I do this with 2 bits?
Yeah. Like all the bits did you guys know Jenny Bits? He's such a nice guy. Do you know Jenny from Jenny Bits?
No.
What is his
No.
name? I'm slipping. My mind's slipping on his name. I think it's Cody, but he owns a company called Jenny Bits. He bought a machine to make his own bits, and he really did some bit innovation.
Uh-huh.
So you guys got to. I met him at Workbench Con, and he gave me a handful of bits. And for instance, he made a V bit with a forward. You guys will dig this. So did you ever cut? You cut something with Aura mask on it.
Yep.
With a V bit, and the Aura mask peels up.
Yep.
Right at the cut. He made a V bit where the cutting heads tilted down 7 degrees.
So a helix. It's got a low
It's
helix V-bit.
So it's a down pressure the whole time, even
Beautiful.
though it's a V bit, and it holds the Aura mask in place. Really smart thinking. And then another thing he did was he said this is what kind of got him into it. He shared it in the chats, and everyone's like, I need one. He made, a down cut bit has the down cut at like the top, like 1/4 inch, for instance.
Right.
And you go below that, and then it pulls up, or so, I forget what it was.
A compression bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
bit
compression
at that
starts a
point.
1/4 inch up. The
Right.
compression starts a 1/4 inch up.
Right.
So to get the benefit of the compression, you got to make a deep cut. And he was
0.27.
using, and he was using maybe an X carb, something that didn't have enough power.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the kid's smart enough and he has the wherewithal to go make his own bit. So he goes and makes his own bit at work. He worked for some aerospace company where he makes a bit where the down cut starts at like 15 thou from the tip.
So
as opposed to
it's
so he can
surface,
go in, so his first cut could be a little bit less because he's got old belts and stuff. That's genius. That's perfect. So his first cut doesn't have to be so deep.
Nice.
Right.
Is
Yeah,
it Jenny?
Yeah, it's like Jenny, who can I turn to? Yeah. So it was a joke. He said,
"You're not Gen X at all."
It's a great.
If the speeds and feeds don't come out to 8675309, I'm going to be upset.
No, when he was on, he was making. We started putting the company together, and somebody said, "What's the part number?" He was like, maybe in a conversation with somebody, or even on a podcast, and someone's like, "What's the part number?" He goes, "Oh, it's 8675309."
Nice.
Oh, I think this is what he told me. This is the joke. I'm remembering it as I'm telling you. He said where he works is some aerospace company. He doesn't work there anymore because now he's got his own company. But when people didn't know the part number, they would just say it's 8675309. That was like I don't know.
Yeah.
And so then he named his company Jenny because he named his first part 8675309. That's the story.
Can we just take a moment and bask in the amazingness that this kid is working at an aerospace company making his own bits because his X carb doesn't have enough power?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
It's like, wait, whoa. You work with rockets. And you can't get anything bigger than a Makina router?
He told me he ended up investing in his own. He invested in his own company. He says, I bought a machine that cost more than my house to cut router bits.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable.
Nice.
I use Vortex tools, so I'm friends with them, and they've like given me virtual shop tours, and it's amazing the equipment that has to go into cutting those. Like, we don't even think about it. It's just a bit you take out of the draw. Like, there is so much that goes into that piece of carbon steel. It's crazy.
Well, it's funny. Like when I'm not going to denigrate what Jenny gave me because I haven't tried them yet, and they're really good. I'll tell you another really good and interesting innovation he did, and I'll explain that in a minute. But when I ended up going to First Build in Kentucky, when I did some work with them, they're running their CNC. They do. If anybody doesn't know First Build, it's a maker space in Kentucky. It's like associated. They only rent from the University of Kentucky. They're not associated with them. So they're in the University of Kentucky, but they rent the space there.
Hmm.
And they made that clear to me that they're not technically associated. They are because then the proximity, but beyond that, they're not. And anyway, they're in the Speed Shop building, if anybody knows that. And the First Build guys make some products, and then anybody that goes there, they're associated with GE. So anybody that goes there is loosely, if you come up with an invention, GE has the first right of refusal. Most of the time they'll say, we don't want it. But if you do come up with a good innovation there, and so they manufacture the pizza oven, the electric pizza oven that I had made with them years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a long story, but they CNC, for instance, the stone, they get the stone in pieces. It's the oven stone. There's one on the bottom, one on the top, and they CNC the grooves in it to put the heating coils.
Uh-huh.
And he goes, I was the guy who was running, the guy named Robbie, who unfortunately passed away. A lot of guys died in this podcast. I'm sorry.
Crazy.
But Robbie taught me, he said, this to CNC these grooves, it's a soft soapstone. He's like, you got to use a CNC machine. He goes, but it eats through bits. Because I was buying like $50 bits. He goes, I went on Amazon. I buy, for $50, I get like 10 bits or 15 bits. And I burn through them. They break, whatever. So he's the one who taught me go to Amazon to just get cheap, crummy bits if you're just doing straight cuts.
Right.
Versus these expensive ones that you snap, throwing a piece of plywood on your machine or whatever. But the other innovative, bit that Cody came up with was, it's a bullnose bit, but instead of being a full bullnose, which you'd expect is like a perfect radius from here to here, it has a flat spot in the middle. So you step over to be much faster. It's really smart. It's a step over is an 1/8 inch. So the flat spot is 1/8 inch on a 1/2 inch bit.
So you're moving.
And you all know that when you have 3 points in the middle of a bit, it's not really doing anything. It's not removing any material. So what he did is he put one longer and the other two are shorter. So it's almost like, so the one cutting, so if it's a 3 flute, the one flute comes in past the middle and the other two come up to it and leave a little air gap for the chips to fly out.
Nice.
Wow.
Capiche?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to order a couple of these. I like this.
Yeah.
There's a guy I've seen him at Maker Camp a couple of times talk about bit innovation, and you'll know as soon as I just can't call his name, but he made a flattening bit and he raked the head, the cutters.
Mm-hmm.
Like his carbide cutters are curved.
I'm not sure I know that.
He's been at Maker Camp a couple of times.
I'm not sure. And is that just so that it's
Slab
is it like
Slayer or something like that?
I think I've heard that. Yeah,
it's a big 3-inch massive.
I know what you're talking about, but I've never taken a close look at it. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's because I have a flattening bit with 3 carbides on it that came from the Orange Tool Company that I refuse to use now, but they're straight, so you're just plowing, you're just smearing.
Right.
Through,
so he's got like an ease. It's got an ease on it.
He curved the carbides and then raked them.
Right.
Like just 5 degrees or 3 degrees even, and it just basically is just peeling. And
then you end up. I'd imagine your step overs don't give you lines that are impossible to palm sand down.
No, not at all. You can't even see them, and you can run a 50% step over on it.
Oh, I gotta buy one of those because I flattened a friend's cookie. This sounds horrible. I flattened my friend's cookie and couldn't get rid of the lines. We couldn't get rid of the lines.
Yeah, they ghost in.
Nice. Yeah, I couldn't turn a 3-inch bit if I had to. With the old Shapeoko, I'm using belts and the trim router. So I can proudly say that I have never broken a 1/4 inch bit, but that has more to do with the fact that the belts haven't got the power to break the bit than it has to do with me actually running into shit.
Do you have an original Shapeoko or one from Carbide 3D?
It's the Shapeoko 3 XXL. Right. So I don't know. I assume there was a 1 and a 2, but
4x4? Is
it? Yeah, I don't know. It's about 32 by 32 worth of working space.
Yeah, I met Kevin from Carbide. I know Kevin, but I met him at Workbench Con, and he's kind of talking me into maybe demoing one of their machines for an ongoing thing. They're at a different price point than ShopBot altogether, so
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know if I'd be competing. I just have to maybe let them have the first right of refusal on that.
They're
Yeah, I think
definitely the more hobby range than the
yeah,
professional 10,000 plus
yeah,
sales. I mean, you can get a Shape Oko for $2,000.
yeah. Their
You
4x4 is under I think it's under $5,000. The 4x4 table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything speed, really. But I gotta say, I lost the third 3-horse motor on my machine, um, and I said to hell with it and upgraded it from a liquid cooled spindle to a 6-horse air cooled spindle.
Hmm.
So much better.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
unbelievably. Like even the bits, like I don't get the bits aren't getting discolored anymore because I'm running them clean. I've got
Oh,
them
clean and faster. Yeah.
clean and
Right.
fast. I'm not going any faster. I'm just cutting cleaner.
Yeah. 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 With more
I
power.
run
So it
pretty
gets back to the
conservative.
conversation with the Raycon bandsaw.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and those liquid cooled spindles, they're a little quieter, but in a shop dusty environment, the dust gets into the coolant, and then you just pack it into and they just don't last.
When I hear something is water cooled, it's just another level of shit that I won't take care of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that, and I'm like, oh my god, if the heat goes out in the shop, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
scared to death with the laser.
Yeah, I
But
run glycol in my lasers.
see, they
It's like
told,
food grade glycol.
and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Though it's
Okay.
it's like 50-50 mix.
Yeah, like RV antifreeze.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's you try and
See,
you got to
And
get the food
for the
grade stuff.
same
It doesn't have the
reason,
color in it.
yeah,
you're in upstate New York, shit gets cold and you run plain water and it's going to expand and break some
yeah.
Break your leg.
$1,000 freaking tubes.
Laguna was very nervous about letting me do that because I told him I ran RV in the antifreeze in the CNC, and that actually prolonged because it kind of has a lubricant in it. But they were like, yeah, don't put that in a laser. Don't put that. Just use distilled water only. So I was like, okay.
So how do you know it's not going to break? How did you not break? Just kept it heated?
The shop's heated. Yeah.
Oh,
There
okay.
you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're good. Yeah,
But like if I
yeah.
run out of propane, I'm scared.
Well, that's exactly why I always keep
Yeah.
I always keep that in my lasers. I have it right now in the Thunder laser. It hasn't been a problem.
Yeah. Nice. I might. It's. I'm probably going to do a service here in the next month or so. I might just switch it over. Good.
And the
I'll
food
just say
grade,
Jimmy said I could.
the food grade glycerin is clear.
Where do you get that?
It's on Amazon.
Oh,
Yeah,
Same
just
place you get everything.
don't listen to me.
Amazon.
Go to like some chat room or something and ask those guys.
I don't trust them people.
So I think you've got one big digital tool left that is full of water that we haven't talked about yet. Somebody,
On my plasma table.
somebody was actually talking about your plasma table. We had Tom on last episode from Next Gen Science.
Oh yeah.
You say he comes over and uses your plasma CNC.
Mm-hmm.
How is that working out? You enjoying the water in there?
The particular machine is buggy. It is about 10 years old, and that was a prototype. When they first made the new shape for that table, that was one of the first generations. It's so new. Well, it was so early, I should say, not new. It was so early that it doesn't have a serial number.
Is
And
that
and
is
go ahead.
that the machine that was on the movie
It was on one of the comic book movies, like
Iron Man? Yeah.
Iron Man or something
Yep.
like that. So,
Yep.
so when it showed up to me, it came from wherever Iron Man was,
Yeah.
and actually, well, it went back to Ohio first, and then it came to me. But it showed up all weird, and like I didn't know what to do with it. They didn't like Torchmate really just kind of leaves me hanging in the dust. They don't. There's no support. There's no nothing. They did rebuild the machine a couple times because I was cranky and crying about it. I'm like, you gave me this $25,000 machine.
Yeah, you had power supply issues, right?
Yeah, a couple things,
Yeah.
a couple issues. I hadn't used it for a couple of months, and I turned it on, and one stepper motor wanted to go backwards, the other one wanted to go forwards. So the machine was going, the gantry was just going, and I'm like, guys, I swear to God, one wants to go. They're like, that's not possible. I'm like,
It's happening.
so like, did you
Here's a
disconnect the
video
wires
of
and
it
put them on?
happening. You tell me why it's not
100%.
possible.
Exactly. And so that's all I'm going
Shouldn't
to say
be
about.
possible, and what is possible are two completely different bears.
So I haven't really talked publicly about this, but I ordered, and tomorrow I'm going to go pay for a fast cut CNC machine. So I'm buying a 4x8 fast cut CNC machine with no water in it. It's going to be just a downdraft table and just with the vacuum that sucks it out. But I'm getting a 4x8 fast cut with a hypotherm. I forget what the size is, but I can cut up to 1 inch thick steel with the hypotherm.
1 inch?
1 inch thick steel, yeah.
Jesus.
And I decided to really up my digital steel fabrication game and get the 4x8 table. I'm paying for this.
So
And then
so you've paid the shop bot off and your credit card's clear now, so you can afford this.
Yes. Exactly. I'll tell you, to be honest with you, that was 11 years ago when I bought, no, was that, how long ago? It was 2013, 12 years ago when I bought that ShopBot CNC machine with a credit card.
Uh-huh.
I had literally no money in the bank. Like it was when I used to actually balance my checkbook because I had to make sure that I had enough money. I never bounced a check.
Yeah.
But if I didn't have enough money, I wouldn't write a check. I'd wait.
Right.
But I had a little ledger, and I'd go all the way down to like $200 in my account or $150 in my account. That's when I bought that CNC machine.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Now I have a little bit more money in the bank
Yeah.
because of all my YouTube success.
Yeah, oh yeah. You're a
I'm saying
billionaire
it sarcastically. Now I'm a billionaire. But tomorrow I'm going to go send a money transfer for like nearly $30,000 to buy this machine. They give me a really dramatic discount because I called up and said I want to buy the machine outright. They gave me a quote, and I really had to try not to drop the phone to act like I was a tough guy. I'm like, yeah, okay. That's how much it is? And then we started talking a little bit more, and he's like, I know who you are. Guy Russ, a very sweet guy. He's like, look, he goes, it would be foolish for me to miss an opportunity to get exposure with your videos. He goes, let me come up with a discount. So we ended up coming up with a discount for the 4x8 table. And like I said, my price is somewhere like just shy of 30 grand.
And that's, I mean, that's nothing to blink at by any means, but like even this machine, I'm pointing at my Swift, that machine is 3 times what I paid for that already now. Like
you mean if you had to buy it now?
Oh yeah. 3 times what I paid for it. Yeah. And it's not any, I mean, it's newer parts, but it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. How much was that machine? Well, if I had to buy that machine now, how much would it be?
This machine now with a vacuum, that's a vacuum table too, with the 6-horse, is 44.
Yeah, 44 grand.
And I paid 21.
My ShopBot Alpha was priced somewhere around 35 grand when I got it in 2018, 2017. Yeah. And this table, like so, and getting back to the Torchmate table, I'm a Lincoln sponsoree.
Yeah.
But it seems like Lincoln and Torchmate, I honestly can't say with factual knowledge. It just seems like they don't have a relationship because in 9 years I've been working with Lincoln, I still don't know anybody at Torchmate that I can pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm having a problem with this machine. I got to call in like a customer, and they say, what's your serial number? And I say, there is no serial number. And they're like, that's not possible. I'm like, you don't understand. I'm a YouTuber. Everyone calls me the Godfather. I have a big YouTube channel.
Go watch the Iron Man movie. It's there.
And they're like, we're gonna send you a job reference number. When you get that email, I'm like,
oh my God.
Yeah. They literally treat me like a paying customer, which just I'd like to go to the front of the line. I mean, I'm on your payroll. Nobody pays attention. Yeah. So I wrote a message to my contact at Lincoln. I said, this table is tired, and I need a more reliable table. So I'm going to shop around and buy another table. And she just said, she didn't really say anything. She said, well, let's see what we can do, is what she said. Mm-hmm. And nearly 6 weeks has gone by. I'm about to pay for the table tomorrow, and today I got an email from my friend at Lincoln that said, we didn't forget about you, but we're going to look into it. And I just said, I just bought a table from another company. So
now,
you're off the hook.
So
I said, I go, you're off the hook. But if I waited and I nurtured I would get the table because I have a deal with them. Yeah. But I don't want to. I want to try a different brand. So I'm literally like putting my money where my mouth is. I'm buying a different brand because that brand has proven itself to not be reliable to me, the Torchmate table.
Yeah. Now, is this, you said downdraft? Is there a benefit other than cleanliness? I can't imagine. I can only imagine.
Well,
it
I asked the Russell,
everywhere.
the owner at Fast Cut, and I was like, I have a water. He goes, we make water tables. He goes, it's your choice. We could give you one that takes water. He goes, personally, I don't like a water table because it's messy. It just collects all the dirt and it just gets muddy. And it's true.
Yeah.
The water in the water table is so dirty you could stick your finger in it like Bugs Bunny and pull it out and it's just black.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Like
Yeah.
you
I've
would
seen, I've seen your table. Yeah. Yeah.
you wouldn't
It's
assume
crazy.
the water would suspend like the goo in the air. You assume it would all sink.
Yeah.
But you like literally dip your finger and it comes out, it's black. It's like the dirtiest. It's got smoke, sweat.
The good thing is you're not breathing that.
True.
It's trapped in the
This
water.
table's gonna come. This is I like it because it cools off your plate.
Yeah.
But if you have a more efficient cut in general, which these new machines, this Hypertherm is going to have a more efficient cut.
Yeah.
It's got much. It seems to me, and I'll know because I'm going to have the experience. It just has a better upgraded technology.
Yeah.
Like when I got to change the tip on the plasma cutter, there's like 4 parts.
Yeah.
Each one of those 4 parts could melt and go wrong. Apparently on the Hypertherm, it's just one cap,
Yeah.
and you pull it off. And you just put in another cap.
Change it.
And they seem to have a little bit longer life because there's less parts to go bad.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn all this in time.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No.
I think it sounds like this technology is Mike Coffee over at Coffee Custom Builds.
Yep.
He's looking at a downdraft table laser cutter.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to be a technology that's coming along,
Oh yeah.
For different applications.
I mean, honestly, they say downdraft. It just means there's a sucker underneath it to pull away the smoke and dirt.
Right, yeah.
Honestly,
this is kind of downdraft, sort of.
I'm probably never going to plug in the downdraft because it's like a separate thing you're going to buy. I'm gonna buy a fan from Harbor Freight and stick it at the end of the tube.
Off of Amazon.
Amazon, definitely.
Yeah.
Go get one of those. I've got 2. My exhaust fans are both grow operation fans.
I'm probably, I'm gonna get one of those like Home Depot, those big orange like floor dryer things that you see in the deli.
Yeah.
And I'll just have the tube stick to the intake of that and just shoot it 90 degrees left.
Nice.
Sandblast the side of your Cadillac.
Yeah, if you're getting little bits of metal coming out through there, you probably be careful where you point it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I point it right at my wooden wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I wouldn't do that.
Well, so I mean, we're running not long, but we're running a while here. What other kind of crazy digital? I mean, you just do everything, like your maker man, stained glass stuff, like all that.
Oh yeah,
stuff.
come in, baby. We're almost done. We're getting close.
Yeah.
Do you think I fell asleep? I told her I was going to be 30 minutes, and then I read the email. I said,
Oh.
That's right.
We're almost done. Hey, if the boss wants us off, we're done.
But what you reminded me of something. Oh, I told Derek we were at a show when we went to go see the Aeon Laser people in October in North Carolina at Graphic Expo, and there's an embroidery. There was an aisle of embroidery machines, and I say it all the time to Derek. I go, that looks too complicated for me to have enough attention span to figure that out, but Derek would. I said, if you want that machine, I will buy it. It's like a $40,000 machine. I'm like, I'll take the risk. I'll go on a payment plan or whatever. I'll buy that machine for you to start a business. And so as far as digital, embroidery looks amazing. Like if you get into it, there's some really like cool stuff you can do with embroidery things.
Yeah.
Derek has the patience to go into chat rooms and to go into discussions online. I don't do any of that stuff.
No. I don't either.
So Derek would go right onto like a Facebook group and become part of the Facebook group and immediately learn things I would only learn by making 50 mistakes.
Yeah.
So I said to him, I go, if you would be interested in getting one of those machines and you want to start a business making hats, say like a 4-head machine or whatever. I said, I'll take the investment for you and you pay me back as you make money.
Did he do it?
This way? No.
Oh.
He's like, I'm not doing that.
I was like, I need to order T-shirts right now. I will call Derek tomorrow.
He knows that's an open offer. I said it to him years ago, but then a few months back when we were at the show,
yeah.
I was like, dude, this is what I'm talking about. I go, I'll take the financial risk if you want to take the the mental stress of figuring out how to use these things.
This isn't digital question minded, but like if you have a second, I don't want to keep you all night, but if you have a second, you and Derek are kind of a special dynamic duo. How did that happen?
It's a funny story how me and Derek met when we did the 100th episode of the podcast. It was kind of a milestone for a lot of us.
Yeah,
we did the 100th episode of making a podcast.
I remember it.
and we put it out to the audience. Anybody want to house a bunch of people, and we ended up at Converse in Boston. One of our fans is a good guy. We still follow each other. He said, "I'm an executive at Converse. We have a meeting room. Come," because we did an Eventbrite only just so we could manage the number of people. It was all free, first come, first serve. And then that day we did several podcasts, live podcasts, and me, Bob, and Dave were the finale. And I had gotten a message from Derek earlier on. I've been sober for going to May will be 38 years I've been sober. I got sober when I turned 20. I started drinking when I turned 14. And I talk about it. And so I had gotten an email from Derek, and I didn't really register on the name or anything. He wasn't Derek from Malden at the time. And he said, I appreciate you talking publicly and openly about being sober. I've been sober, and it's refreshing to hear because these guys get so much pressure to have a beer here, a beer there, and so cool. And then fast forward to when we did Making It 100, he had emailed me again, and he said, "I didn't get the Eventbrite in time. I'm not going to be able to get in. Is there any way for me to get in?" I said, "I'll just tell the girl at the door you're my cousin or something." And then that was through an email while I was inside. 10 minutes later, he's like, "I'm Derek," because I just told her that I knew you, and she said, "Go right in." It's like, there you go. And we shook hands, and Derek's obviously a very open and honest guy, and he reiterated again. He's like, "I just appreciated your openness about being sober," because it was refreshing to hear someone just talk about it like it's not taboo.
Yeah.
And somebody walked up to us not at that very moment, but at some other point during the day. Someone said, "Hey, Jimmy, tomorrow, if you're going to be in town after the podcast, I'm one of the students at MIT. I could show you the labs." And Derek was right there. He goes, "Oh, I've been in MIT. I did work in there, the phone lines." And the kid goes, "You come too." And then there was like somebody else standing there, like, I can't even remember who, but "You come too." And then like all of a sudden there was like 8 of us. We went around MIT for the whole day on the Sunday. And we really had a nice day. And that was the day me and Derek bonded. We just stayed friends ever since. And then the other thing is his daughter was in Philly, so he was leaving Boston and driving through New York sometimes, especially to visit me. So he's like, "Hey, I'm going to be passing through New York. I'll come and see your shop." So that was and then I also started moving upstate right around that same time, like a year later. And so he would come by on the way up from Philly, grab a bunch of shit, come to my shop with me. And then I was like, "Why don't you just spend the night?" And then that was when we fell in love.
There you go.
I knew a little bit of that story, but I wanted to get clarity on it. But it's to see you guys, it's like you were like little league ball players together back in the day.
Yeah. But the other thing that kind of fast forwarded our friendship is that we had the very same lives. And Derek always says, we both get the same peer pressure from our fathers to get a city job, but I didn't take the city job. And he always says, "You lived the life that I would have lived if I didn't take the pressure from my father and take the city job or take the steady job."
Yeah.
My dad was always saying, "Become a fireman or a policeman."
I was going to say, you were going to be a fireman, right?
And my brother John became a policeman for a minute there. But Derek ended up getting a job at Verizon.
Yeah.
That's the pizza place. That's a secret. No telling about
it. Is your sister still doing jewelry?
Yeah, she's doing jewelry. She's doing great.
Awesome.
My sister is a shop in Seacliff. Her husband owns the bar directly across the street. She owns the shop on the opposite side. Nice. And they're like the mayor and husband and wife team.
I'm sorry, Jeff, for capitalizing on this conversation, but what's the status of your violin player? I haven't seen her in a while.
My violin or my trumpet?
No, didn't you have a young lady that was playing violin for you for a while? In a lot of your videos, like a neighborhood kid?
Yeah. That's well, that was a friend of mine that stayed at the house, and she gave me a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I cataloged a bunch of stuff when I was doing the vlogs. I haven't really used much of them because I haven't really been doing the vlogs. Yeah. Natalie, she's on the road
in your spare time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the vlogs take the most work to make, and then they get the least amount of views, which is why I kind of just made a corporate decision to just
Yeah,
abandon them.
that's
And then around the same time I stopped doing them, Instagram stories became more popular. So
yeah,
we could all see what everybody's got a vlog, daily vlog now.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's just in your stories now. You just gotta pay
Yeah,
attention more often because they disappear.
exactly. And occasionally we save the cool stuff in the flashbacks.
Okay.
That's it.
Well, we probably starting to run a little late here,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I got one more thing I want to throw at you. That's not really
You got
digital, but it's definitely Jimmy. And I think
yeah.
maybe we could probably scrap the thing of the week this time for space. Nobody cares about that anyway. I was gonna
Look how
mention.
cynical you are, Jeff.
I was gonna say something about the Jimmyisms. There's all the Jimmy quotes. I mean,
Yeah.
Al used one of them earlier. He threw out, "If it looks
Looks
straight, it is
straight. It
straight,"
is straight.
and
Right.
everybody's always repeating the "you go to school" on the first one. And
Yeah.
I've heard that so many times. I almost roll my eyes when I hear it. But I mean, I
Me
still
too.
can't blame people because it resonates so well with people about how much you actually really do learn the first time you dig in and try something. That resonates so much with the makers.
Oh, there it is.
And
That
yeah,
reminds me, I got to print more of those.
and but I've got a new one for you. This is
What do you got?
this is a Jimmy quote that everybody else seems to be sleeping on, but it was a few years ago back when see you're making it episode 313, and
Whoa.
yep, well you're what, 400 and something now.
We're closing in on 5. I said to Bob and Dave, we got to do something at 500.
So it was, yeah, maybe what, 3 years ago or something.
Hmm.
But 35 minutes in, you said something, and I thought it was so profound. I pulled the fuck over and wrote this down, and I think this is one everybody should pick up on, and
Thank you.
especially for people who are struggling to get into some of the digital tools and the software, and they're fighting with how much work do I have to learn to get this stuff done. You said, I don't remember what you're talking about, but you were talking to Bob, and you came out with, "It's only hard because you don't know how to do it yet."
Yes.
And
Yes.
that one
Yes.
that one hit me so hard. I pulled over, stopped the car, and typed that into my phone and marked down where it came from because
It's amazing you remember. But that's exactly what I said at the beginning of this conversation, whereas there's
Yeah.
always one thing. I say it all the time on my podcast. There's always the one thing. And for me, it's the electronics on the car.
right.
Yeah.
It's the electric. It's like, I don't know where all these fucking wires go. Why are there two posts on a fucking coil? What does one go to? What does the other one go to? Why
Yeah.
are there three positions on a switch? What the fuck? Like, why is it so complicated? It's hard because I don't know it. And then David from DTB Fabrication Cab comes in and he goes, oh, this goes here, this goes there. You got to put that over there, and you got to put that over there.
Right.
And I'm like, how the fuck do you know that?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
because he's learned it, he's done it 17
He's learned
times.
it.
It's ingrained. He knows it. And once you know it, it's not hard. It only seems
Yeah,
complicated when you don't know what goes into it or how it gets
yeah,
done, or
yeah.
you don't even
It's
know
the
where to
fear.
start.
The fear keeps you from confronting the learning.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
Fortunately,
another one.
I've got a very little fear factor for learning. I've got absolutely no problem, especially, I mean, I started with computers when I was, like 12. We got an Apple II, and I've been
Right.
playing with computers as toys ever since, toys and tools ever since. And I'm pretty good with software, and I will just jump in and start pushing buttons to see what it does.
I've developed that confidence, because of the CNC. I said when Derek wanted to buy his first Avid CNC, when it was called what was it called CNC parts before it was Avid. That's what he was going to buy the machine. I was like, he goes, "What do you think?" It was like $6,000. Some guy he needed to raise money, and he was giving up his business. And I go, if you get it, I go, just be conscious of one thing. You're going to have to become an expert on it, and you will unconsciously.
Yep.
You'll become an expert on
Yep.
that particular machine and the nuances with the software that run that machine. I said, and he did, and people do. And that's what I always tell people.
You have to.
I don't know if that was off the point, yeah, but You got to confront all the technology to learn how to do it. The same thing with me. Like the machine sat there. I was just fearful of learning, and then when somebody made it easy for me to understand how all the software worked, it was easy for me to understand how the hardware worked.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
I just bought Bob's course because
Oh, I've been
I'm
meaning to do that too.
I'm scared to death of Fusion, but
I really
I
want
gotta
to
do
try.
it.
I'm going to do it too. I'm going to buy. I don't want them to give it to me. I want to support them. I want to buy it too.
Well,
And can I say you guys are a good crew. You guys are good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I've followed you guys. I followed Dave since he was the drunken woodworker.
Yep, me too.
I've known Bob, since before we had forerunners
Yeah,
or Land Cruisers.
it's crazy. I mean, we've been at this now going on like 11, 12 years.
Yeah.
As an
I
average.
know it would be a huge travel burden for them, but man, I just can't think of a better place. And I've only seen pictures. I need to get over there and see the upstairs, but I can't imagine a better place to do 500 than in that leather shop of yours upstairs.
I would do it on the property. Just got to
Yeah.
figure out. We're gonna set up chairs. It's going to be like a wedding there. We're gonna have to
Yeah.
do like a wedding,
Yeah.
like set up like chairs in the summer day. Then all of a sudden we're gonna get rain.
I'll
It's
tell
gonna
you
blow
what.
away.
With enough lead time, I'll make 100 racks of ribs or something for you. We'll have a big party.
We're gonna do something. We really have to at this point. It's been 10 years, and
Yeah.
maybe we're gonna have to have the barbecue at Dave's house.
Yeah.
Just to get him there.
If that's what it takes. I mean, there should be enough Patreon
you
funds from the podcast
you can't
to
get
pay
Dave.
for
It's
travel
hard to
for
get
the
Dave.
other two.
Yeah. He's
I'll
always
pay.
worried about his wieners.
Now we're going to talk in the morning. I'll bring it up again just to see what they've been thinking.
Well, everybody's got to worry about their wieners, right?
Yeah, I do too.
It's got to be a priority. All right. Well, I guess we can wrap this up so everybody can get ready for bed. Make Rachel happy before she gets unhappy here. We don't like unhappy.
Yeah.
We don't like unhappy women in our lives. That just makes things a lot rougher for everybody, doesn't it? Anyway, so I would definitely like to thank Jimmy for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And
thanks, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Good time.
For sure.
Good to finally.
I'll come back if you guys have like a specific thing you want to talk about. You want to spend an hour and a half talking about bit geometry or something. I come back.
Yeah.
I am definitely going to look in. I'll tell you, I know we didn't do a thing of the week, but Jenny Bits is my thing of the week. I'm going to explore this. I want to visit with
take
this
a look.
person. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Real sweet kid. I call him a kid. He's probably 30 years old.
Yeah,
really sweet kid who really sweet. Sweet kid, just really going out there and getting it. And doing a good job.
Yeah. Well, us in our 50s, anybody in their 30s is a kid.
Yeah.
And all three of us are in our 50s here, so that's pretty fair for us there.
I'm going to be 58. I'm going to be 58 April 3rd.
I saw a sign the other day that said, "Please be patient. I'm from the 1900s."
Yeah, that sounds right.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, that explains a lot. Some of us, drank out of the garden hose.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
So I guess anybody that enjoyed the episode should go follow Jimmy. But to be fair, if you don't already follow Jimmy on Instagram or YouTube, how are you even in the maker community? And how would you even know? How would you find me if you hadn't found him yet? But just in case,
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
And I'd also like to thank the co-host Al for taking the time to hang out again. And I'd like to
thank you, Al.
All the listeners for taking the time to tune in. And
you know what? Next time we get together, we got to talk about scars for an hour and a half. The scars and injuries.
Yeah. Well, we could.
And I just noticed your Peterbilt hat. I used to own a Peterbilt triaxle. Owned one for 15 years. Yep.
I said to one of these days, me and Rob are going to wrench on one. I'm going to buy one. I won't get a commercial license, so it'll never leave the property, but I'm going to get one.
Yeah.
Nice.
The best truck you can own.
If you need to take it somewhere, get one of your other friends to drive it.
Yeah.
You've
hire a full-time commercial driver.
You've got a friend for any possible use you might ever have. So
that's right.
You can find somebody with a CDL in about 10 minutes, I'm guessing.
Thank you.
Class A with tanks.
Thank you.
So we need to have a huge thank you to our current patrons for their support. So many thanks to Adam from BKR Customs, Ed Swanson of Ed's Clocks and More,
Oh,
and
hi, Ed.
Eric from Overall Makerworks.
Thank
Yep.
you, Eric.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Much thanks to those
Sure.
guys. And if you've enjoyed listening, want to help support the show, you can share it with your friends, leave a review, or join our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/digifabricators. And we've got a Discord server that's open to everybody. Patrons get access to an exclusive channel where they get to hear about our next guest before the public does. Links to Discord and Patreon are in the Digifabricators Instagram, which you should also be following at Digi-Fabricators. And I can be found most places as a weird guy. Al can be found under New York Woodworks, which is NY Woodworks with an X. Thanks again to Jimmy and everybody, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you.
Love you. Love you. Ooh, that's hot.
Sweet. Nailed it.